Purlins are used to support the roof deck of steel-framed buildings. Rails are used to support the cladding walls along the sides of a building. Ayrshire manufactures 3 profiles that are suitable for use in roof systems. These are Z, Zeta 1, and Zeta 2. The same profiles are also used for rails, and there is an additional C-shaped profile called CW. All profiles are orientated so that the widest flange is at the sheeting face. With purlins, the widest flange points upwards, and the cleat is up the slope from the purlin. With side rails, the widest flange points down to the ground, and the cleats are below the rail. There is a gap between the non-sheeting flange and the rafter or column. The minimum gap for Ayrshire purlins and side rails is 7 mm. Cleats can be extended. This is useful when the cold rolled is supported from the web of the hot rolled. Cleats have bolt holes, and positions to match the standard hole size, and gauge lines for the cold rolled being used. Ayrshire are manufacturers, not fabricators. The manufacturing process starts with a steel coil being loaded onto a roll-forming mill. The coil is then decoiled into a pit before being run through a punch press. The press punches holes through the steel along standard gauge lines, across the width of the steel. The coil is then formed into the eventual profile by rollers as it runs through the mill. The beam is then cut to length by a flying shear that moves along with the steel, then resets to cut the next piece. Then the beams are stacked, and bundled for delivery. Ayrshire manufacture a complete range of accessories to work with our purlin and side rail systems. These accessories include cleats, eaves brackets, sleeves, stays, and bracing. All accessories are system dependent. For example, Z profiles will need Z cleats, and Zeta 1 stays are only suitable for Zeta 1 beams. All purlin and rail systems have arrangement options. There are 5 arrangements for purlins and side rails. These are butted, sleeved, double span, heavy end bay, and double span heavy end bay. Stays are sometimes required to restrain rafters and columns. Longer span purlins and rails are braced to prevent them from sagging, with anti-sag bars going down both slopes. A benefit of the Ayrshire Metals Zeta 1 purlin is that sag bars are generally not required for the most common roof configurations. Eaves ties are required between the lowest purlin and an eaves beam. Monopitch roof bracing includes diagonal ties and struts. The struts and diagonal ties are generally at the top of a slope, with anti-sag bars running down the slope in tension. But they can also be at the lower part of the roof, with vertical struts running up the slope in compression. Side rails also use diagonal ties with struts in compression. External cladding for industrial buildings is often fixed to the flange of the cold rolled rail or purlin. This type of cladding acts as a restraint on the cold rolled and prevents it from twisting under load. Some types of cladding don't provide any restraint. For these instances, there are restraint struts to prevent twisting. Detailers can always contact Ayrshire Technical Services for assistance with queries about bracing, and for any other technical guidance.